Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome tonight to the race reaction to that race. We all know what that race is. It was the 2021 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix from the streets of Jeddah, and wow, what a race. Maybe not in terms of pure racing, it was the greatest race. A lot of it was, virtual safety cars, red flag, safety cars, whatever you want to call it. It was very stop-start in the first half of the Grand Prix, but once it really got going in those final 15 laps, we are never going to forget this Grand Prix. I'll tell you that for now. And of course, in this race reaction over the next hour, I'm going to try and keep it to an hour because I can't be really going, an hour and a half, 2 hours, because I'm absolutely shattered. I've not even eaten anything today. So, yeah, I do need to try and keep this to an hour, and I will try my best. And of course, we're going to start where, we should start. But we'll start, in that place. We'll go to that place, rather, in just a moment, because I just want to say, hopefully you guys are doing well after that race. Hopefully you're a bit calmer after that race than you were during it. And hopefully you will make sure to post your comments in chat, letting me know what you thought of the Grand Prix, what you thought of the, Hamilton and Verstappen incidents and everyone else's race. Like I said, let me know in chat and we'll get into it. But let me first get into the results of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So, Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen finishes second. Valtteri Bottas finishes third. Getting third place on the line from Esteban Ocon, Ricciardo fifth, and then Gasly, Leclerc, Sainz, Giovinazzi, Norris. That completes the rest of the top 10. And then the rest of the order that finished but did not finish in the points are Stroll, Latifi, Alonso, Tsunoda, Raikkonen. And then retiring is Vettel, Perez, Mazepin, Russell, and Schumacher. Now, let's get into the main headlines. Now, we'll start, before we get into the controversy, and there was many controversial moments between these two during the Grand Prix, let's not kid ourselves. Let's start with how it all went, bit by bit during the race. So, at the start, nothing dramatic happened. Max kind of tried to move on Valtteri Bottas, but it was never going to work. And then, for the first 10 laps, it was Hamilton, Bottas, and Verstappen, your top three. Lewis looked pretty comfortable. It looked as though it's going to be a Lewis Hamilton win. Maybe Verstappen would get past Bottas somehow, some way. But it looked as though Lewis Hamilton was going to win the Grand Prix. Then the safety car comes out. Both Mercedes pit. Max stays out. The red flag then comes out. Benefits Max Verstappen massively because then he can have a free pit stop and be still in the lead of the Grand Prix. Of course, when the race was restarted, though, that's when really the controversy began. So I'm just trying to remember the restarts, just trying to get them right in terms of what happened at what restart. Of course, there were two restarts at this Grand Prix. So I think the first one is what you're seeing on your screen now. So, like I said, Max had, free pit stop, new fresh tyres, same tyre life really as Lewis Hamilton, and the same tyre, of course. But at the start, Hamilton got a great start off the line, was up the inside, but Max Verstappen was keen to try and get back past. And you can see here, I haven't really got a photo at the moment of Max Verstappen exactly going off circuit, but what he did was, you see where Bottas is, the second Mercedes there, who's on the curb and on the runoff, but Max went, he completely cut that curve basically and shot across turn 2, pushed Hamilton wide, got the lead back. Ocon then got into second place, but then we had another red flag because of a massive crash with Leclerc, Russell, and Mazepin. So then, because Max clearly, and there is no doubt about it, by the way, Max overtook Lewis illegally off the circuit. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Max then gave Ocon and Hamilton track position, so he could fall behind Hamilton, of course. And then what do you call it? And then at the second restart, it was Ocon first, Hamilton second, Verstappen third this time on the grid. Hamilton got a better start than Ocon, was alongside, but Verstappen sent it down the inside on the fresher and softer compound of tyre. Got the move done. It was a fair move. Hamilton did make contact with Ocon, but it was a fair move. The gap was there, and he didn't force Hamilton, into, flying off the circuit or anything like that. So, like I said, it was a fair overtaking move for Max Verstappen. But then Hamilton was clearly quicker on the hard compound tyre. The harder tyres really this weekend have been the better ones around this circuit, which, I mean, given how fast the corners are, it's not really a surprise because a lot of load put through the tyre, meaning, of course, the more durable ones are going to be, better in those situations. But eventually, after multiple virtual safety car periods, eventually Hamilton was able to get within a second of Max Verstappen, get DRS, and have a go at Max Verstappen down. And I'll just actually, let me just try actually and find it. There you go. We'll go back to the intro picture. So Max Verstappen, like I said, he was now ahead of Lewis Hamilton on circuit, but Hamilton was quicker. Then down the pit straight, Lewis Hamilton, clearly quicker at this point, has DRS wide open. Max defends to the inside. Hamilton goes round the outside, pretty much gets the move done. And then Max does exactly, this is actually not a picture of it, I've just realised. But what Max did was what he did in Brazil. Threw it up the inside and was never going to make the corner, which is why he went off, and he almost spun and, went into the barriers. He had quite a big moment in the middle of that corner, and Lewis was lucky that he avoided Max and kept it on the circuit, and rightfully so. Max Verstappen was given a 5-second penalty for what he did. It's the punishment he should have got in Brazil. Of course, in Brazil it didn't matter because Hamilton won the race there. And in the end here, it didn't matter because Hamilton won the race, but it was a clear penalty. There is no doubt about it because Max, like I said, he was never making the corner. We all know why he did it, and we all know why he does it because he is a very, bad loser, which is not a bad thing. You're a racing driver. You're supposed to be a bad loser, but, he is one of the worst losers, I guess you could say, in racing. And yeah, there was no doubt in my mind when I was watching it live that Max Verstappen was going to do what he did. And then, got ahead and stayed ahead illegally. Then the FIA, or Red Bull, or one of the two, maybe both, told Max Verstappen, you need to let Hamilton through. You got that position illegally. And Max Verstappen, I don't have a picture of it, unfortunately, but Max Verstappen, on the run to the final corner, decided to lift off and was going to let Lewis Hamilton through. But Max, what he was trying to do was let Hamilton go and then get a run on Hamilton down the pit straight with DRS and then get back past straight away, so then it would be back to how it was. Max being sneaky, but it's within the rules. Lewis knew this, so he tried to back off and wait to perform that action. But Max was was adamant, basically, no, this is what, I am not letting, what do you call it? I'm not letting you pass me down the pit straight. I will, let you through here. So he braked a bit and Hamilton went into the back of him. Now, in regards to that incident, and I think they are investigating that incident maybe now, and in regards to who was at fault and whether there should be a penalty or not. Hopefully not, because I'm hoping that it will be, it will be no penalty, because I think for the final race, it'd be great if we had them not penalised, any of them going into that final round. For me, both of them are as stupid in that incident as each other, and both are as at fault for that as each other. Max again, technically he was being within the rules, but he was trying to be a bit sneaky. Hamilton really should have just overtaken him and then did what he did later on, which is force him a bit wide to avoid Max getting as best a run out of the final corner on Lewis Hamilton. That's what Hamilton should have done, but he didn't decide to do that. And then, Max and Lewis, again, trying to outsmart each other, ended up outsmarting themselves, and very lucky it did not end in an accident that meant the end for either one of their races or both of their races. And then eventually, of course, Lewis Hamilton would overtake and beat Max Verstappen in the Grand Prix. More controversy, though, would happen because Max continued to deliberately let Lewis through into the final corner, so Max could then have DRS down the pit straight. There was one occasion where Max let him through, and then Max then dived down the inside of the final corner, then got the DRS down the pit straight. Then Max did it again, but this time Lewis was a bit smarter about it and forced Max wide. Then, even though Max had DRS, Lewis was then able to clearly have the lead, and he went on to win by, 7 or 8 seconds, I think, in the end from Max Verstappen. Now, in the end, despite all of that mental stuff that happened, and it was absolutely fucking mental, we have got the correct result, I think. Max Verstappen, like I said, he deserved the penalty. Hamilton was quicker, and as long as Hamilton remained within a second of Verstappen in the Grand Prix, Lewis was going to win the Grand Prix because Lewis was clearly quicker than Max. The hard compound tyre was, clearly the better tyre compared to the medium. Maybe on reflection, Red Bull should have gone for a hard compound tyre, but in the end, it did get them into the lead in the first place on the second restart after the second red flag. So you'd have to, factor that in. And I think for Lewis, great result and the deserved result. And I think how it finished and how it ended up is how it should have ended up, thankfully. We don't have a situation where, Max Verstappen has won this race when he didn't deserve to. And he didn't. He wasn't quick enough. Max was under pressure, really, from the second restart. He was under pressure from Lewis Hamilton until eventually he was overtaken and beaten in this Grand Prix. And again, he went beyond the line when it came to keeping his position or trying to keep his position. That's why, for me, he deserved the penalty. So the rightful result. They must have overtook and re-overtook each other about 5 or 6 times in this race. I've never seen that happen before. Championship rivals being at each other like that during a race so consistently. It's just, again, absolutely mental that happened. And now, of course, going into the final Grand Prix, they are level on points, exactly level on points. And if neither of them have a grid penalty going into the final Grand Prix, then essentially whoever beats who is champion. Hopefully, there's no contact that means it will go down to whoever's had the most wins or most second place finishes. If they were, to both take each other out of the race. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But it set things up absolutely perfectly, hasn't it, for the final race? I cannot wait for the final race. I wish it was tomorrow. I really, really do. Because we are in for, and even though, yes, the track in the past, the Abu Dhabi or Yas Marina track has not been the greatest, that they have revised the layout, and I think it will help to a certain extent. I think definitely at the start, you're going to see possibly these two at it again in a week's time. And I think we could be in for a thrilling end to the championship and a thrilling end to what has been probably the greatest championship battle of all time. And I cannot wait to see what the final part of this great story has to offer. Now, quickly, we'll go on to Valtteri Bottas. I mean, a shame with what happened with the restarts of the race. Him having a poor start and then getting forced out of it by Ocon and Ricciardo, but not really that foreign, Valtteri Bottas having a poor start, is it? And then after that, he took way too long to pass Ricciardo and Ocon. And it's a shame because if he was able to get past Ricciardo and Ocon relatively quickly, like, say, Hamilton was able to get past Ocon, really quickly, because of what happened up front, Bottas could have actually got in there and maybe got second from Verstappen. But because Bottas was so slow until he suddenly woke up, he, eventually got the podium. But it should have been, he should have been in that battle somehow, but he just wasn't. But third it is, and at least with Perez, we'll get on to him now, at least with Perez out of the race in this Grand Prix. That is obviously great news for Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship. I don't know if... let me look. Gonna just see, have Mercedes officially won the Constructors' Championship. By the way, Lewis and Max are reporting to the stewards in 25 minutes. Let me just have a look at the to see if Mercedes won the Constructors, and no, I don't think so. But Mercedes have basically won it because Mercedes today had 41 points and Red Bull had 18. I also saw there from Chris Medland on Twitter that if, and we'll go back to them now, Lewis and Max, the dynamic duo, if it ends up that at the end of the race, let's say they both take each other out in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix and they both retire, Max would win the championship because Max has one more race win if they were to both retire. I'm not going to say that a certain driver would be, not that bothered about eliminating his rival and himself from a race, but we've seen it before, haven't we? We've seen it before where drivers have took the championship into their own hands and took maybe the lives of other people into their own hands and done something that is incredibly selfish to achieve the goal. It could definitely happen. It could definitely happen in that final race. And yeah, what an amazing Grand Prix between these two. Let me know, guys, before we get on to the rest of the teams and how they all got on. Not really an absolute gigantic amount to say about the rest of the teams because it was really Hamilton versus Verstappen, wasn't it? That, made for that race. Let me know in the chat, what did you think of all of the incidents that I, just went through with Lewis and Max? Who was in the right? Who was in the wrong? Did we get the right result? Did Max Verstappen deserve his penalty? And what do you think going into the final Grand Prix of the season with them level on points? Let me know right now in the live chat. And I'll read out your comments in just a moment. Just want to say, again, don't forget, guys, to subscribe to the channel for more content like this because I will be live next weekend for the final Grand Prix of the season. I'll be doing a practice 3 watch along and a qualifying watch along on the Saturday, and then a race preview, race watch along. So race preview will be 3 hours before the race starts. Race watch along, that'll be what? So the stream will start half an hour before the race starts. We'll do that race, and then I'm hoping I still need to talk about it with Nib before I, absolutely go through with this. But I'm hoping to do our season review stream, say later that night, say, I don't know, 5-6 p.m. UK time, something like that. We'll do our season review stream, and then next weekend I will get into what the plan for the winter is, and it's actually quite an immediate plan for the winter that I think you guys will be excited by. But yeah, don't forget, if you are new to the channel, to subscribe for that content coming up. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Don't forget as well to hit the notifications bell, smash the like button, and share this video and channel everywhere you can. Now, let's read the comments. This race was a disgrace, a total farce. This track is dangerous. Jeremy, what is your opinion on Verstappen getting a penalty after giving a position back? Because I'm still confused. that penalty was not for that. The penalty was for the one after where Lewis tried to make a move on Max down to turn 1 and Max went off. That's what the penalty's for. It's not for the one where Ocon, got him to second. It's not because it's not that one. Let me look at some other comments here. Very intense. The track isn't safe. Luckily, Max and Hamilton didn't both wipe out each other. Max was trying everything to fight every move Hamilton made. I do feel Max should have got more than a 5-second penalty for his slowing in the middle of the track and not filling to the edge like he should have. 5-second penalty was a joke. There is something to be said about, does Max deserve a penalty for what he did? But the reason I think he could get away with it is it's not like Lewis, it's not like it was under a safety car. Like, that incident was almost reminiscent, wasn't it, of Hamilton and Vettel in Baku. But that was under a safety car and they had to go to a certain speed. Lewis could have overtaken him. That's the thing. Lewis could have overtaken him and then that whole damage wouldn't have happened. That's why I say they're both as dumb as each other in that incident. Because, yeah, Max was slowing down and trying to be a bit tricky, but Lewis could have overtaken him. It's not like Lewis was forced to stay behind. He forced himself to stay behind. That's why I don't think Max should get a penalty for that, because Lewis wasn't forced into crashing with him. He just crashed with him. And yeah, Jeremy's saying in the chat as well, Hamilton could have easily gone past him, but he didn't. C. Osb says he brake tested him. Hamilton even slowed with him, wondering what was happening. Again, though, Hamilton could have passed him. In normal conditions, if there's a car going that slowly, you just overtake him. End of story. And I know people may say, well, then Lewis would have got past into turn 1. But if that's the case, then go again, because there was plenty of laps after that. It's not like it was the last lap of the Grand Prix. Yeah, Lewis just as guilty for me as Max in that incident. Could have easily overtaken, but he didn't. And yeah, he was trying to outfox Max and, outfox him on what Max was trying to do. But if he didn't want to have a crash, so he should have just overtaken. If you give the position, you move over to the side. Yeah, well, normally you would, but you don't have to, as long as you give the position up. I mean, if someone's going that slowly, then just, go offline and pass them. Let me look at some other comments here. Scars says, disgraceful from Verstappen, absolutely insane. 1, 2, 3 different incidents in one race. Max is very reckless, according to Blue Flag Alpha. Finton says, normal for Ham to believe Max was racing, hence collision when he slowed. Yes, I do think Max searched for the collision he tried earlier in turn 3. I completely disagree with what Mick is saying. Max knew he was slow, so he tried to crash him out. That's absolutely no basis behind that. Max overzealous has showed his immaturity here again. He ain't playing sim racing, lives at risk. True, but like I said, and I think we've said, Lewis could have overtaken him, and he wasn't forced. If that was a safety, what I'm trying to say in regards to that as well is, if that was a safety car, then yeah, Max should 100% get a penalty, because Max was unnecessarily braking too much and Hamilton went into the back of him. That's, that would have been, I think, mostly clear cut, I think you could say. But that's not what happened. It wasn't the safety car. Lewis could have overtaken him. Ed Cantwell, Chaz are going to be a multi-millionaire after this stream. I hope, but no, absolutely not. Blue Flag Alpha saying, Mickey, you can bet Max will probably lose his mind and end up hitting Lewis. Then Let's look at some other comments here quick. See if I've missed any. Seos says, best season in years. The controversy, intense on-track battles, wrongs on both sides, but hell of a season compared to watching Mercedes dominate. Exactly. This is what we were hoping for, and this is what we have got. And it is still, you know, this is better than nothing, put it that way. Max did not deserve the penalty. Please put aside your bias. Well, there's absolutely no, you know, there's absolutely nothing about what I said that's biased at all. Clear penalty. Absolutely clear penalty. I'll find a couple more comments, and then what I'll do, before I move on to the midfield, I'll ask you guys one more question. Let me find one more comment quick. Seragara, if Max is pathetic as a racing driver, how did he leave the title? They're saying, well, the people saying that are saying, you know, he does, and I do agree to a certain extent, he does sometimes get himself involved in just silly, immature stuff, but he is only still 24 years old. 24-year-olds do tend to get involved in immature stuff, not as much as a 19-year-old. And you compare Max to when he was 19, he's a lot better and a lot more mature than he was, but he can be a bit, you know, he's like, you either love him or you hate him with Max Verstappen. That's just the way it is. Before I go into the midfield, though, guys, and get into them, just want to ask you guys this simple question. Now, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are level on points. So I ask this. Who do you think, in Abu Dhabi, in a week's time, who do you think will win the Drivers' Championship? Will it be Lewis Hamilton or will it be Max Verstappen? And if you want, you can let me know how that certain person wins the championship. Will it be because of a crash? Will it be because of just one driver being better, one team being better? Let me know that if you want to as well. But if not, then just say, who do you think will be world champion this time next week? Let me know right now in the chat, and I'll get to every comment that I can. At the moment, I honestly can't say myself. The reason I can't is because if you look at the track layout for this track, the Jeddah circuit, you'd say Mercedes would have, you know, been clearly quicker, kind of like they were in Qatar and Brazil. But Red Bull could have easily won this race. Max should have got pole, made a mistake. Then in the race, I mean, if Max had started on pole, you never know what could have happened. Like I said, you never know what could have happened in that instance. But the reason going into the final race, I'm not sure, is because the first sector probably be about equal between the two cars. And the first sector, sorry, the first sector is very fast and very short in comparison to the rest of the track. So there's no real differences between the cars in that sector. Sector 2 will be 100% the sector where Mercedes do their work. But the final sector, Red Bull should be quicker, quite clearly, in that final sector, because it's mostly 90-degree corners, you know, that final sector. So that's why I don't know at the minute who I think is going to win the championship, because I don't know who's going to be quicker in Abu Dhabi. Could be Red Bull, could be Mercedes. Even if Mercedes, though, are a 10th quicker, or Red Bull are a 10th quicker, you know, either driver could still end up being ahead of the other one because they bang out an absolutely all-time great lap. Then in the race, you never know. They could get lucky, or it's just so hard to say. It's so hard to say. And that is what I absolutely love about this final race coming up, is every once qualifying begins, every moment will matter. Absolutely every moment. And in the race, every lap will matter towards who wins the World Championship. I just cannot wait for Abu Dhabi. But, yeah, I'm now going to read your guys' comments in the chat. So, yeah, let me know, before I move on to the midfield, let me know, who do you think is world champion this time next week? Right. Blue Flag Alpha says Lewis will win the title. Fantastico says, want it to be Max, but Lewis has it in the bag. Super Kev says, I wanted Max to win this year, but after this race, I'm not sure if it's a good thing for the other races. Mika says Hamilton will win it because Mercedes have the edge right now. Verstappen has to crash into Hamilton to win it. Like I said, that is a possibility that Max might not be exactly against the idea of such a thing. Crisp agrees with me, basically. He says, in my opinion, it's a 50-50. Michael says Hamilton to win it on a time penalty. Seals says Mercedes, Hamilton excels in Abu Dhabi. He has that track dialed in unless Max takes him out. I think it'll be a lot closer than you think. I don't think they're going to dominate around that place. I think Max will definitely be very close, definitely in qualifying on the race. And he'll have to, Lewis will be made to work for it, put it that way. But yeah, Lewis will be super strong. He always is in that circuit. Newton says Hamilton all the way. Max will drop out, I think David Conahan says. Ruxford says Hamilton, but hopefully it will be of epic proportions versus Max. What I'm hoping is, it will be like the last few laps of the race and it'll be done on track. That would be a fitting end. I mean, I even had a vision as I was setting the stream up of, what if it comes down to literally like the last lap and they've say halfway through the last lap towards like I think the end of the second DRS zone where that second big chicane was. What if it comes down to that? I won't have a voice if it comes down to that because I would have blown through all my vocal cords. Vladimir Rodriguez says Max, Lewis 1 and 2 respectively, clean race. Let's see if there's any other comments here. Let me just see if there's any other comments in regards to who you think won the championship. Roosevelt Davis says Lewis. Alexander says Lewis. Serigara says Schumacher, Damon Hill, 94 ending incoming. Very well could happen. TJ Wittenbach says Max. Darkside says Hamilton for sure. Yeah. Like I said, for me, 50-50. I am not going to predict it. I will, though, when we get to the race watch along next weekend, in the build up to the race, I will give my, my final prediction, who I think will win it. Because qualifying will obviously help give me an idea of what will happen. But right now, don't even ask, because I have no idea. I just can't wait to see what happens, to be honest. By the way, thank you very much. Donation from Roosevelt Davis, $1.99, says, depends on Bottas' position. Yeah, Bottas, who, by the way, has been pretty good at that circuit in the last 2 or 3 years. He will play a factor, for sure, in what happens. As long as we don't have, safety cars and red flags like this next weekend, then I think, he will play a factor to a certain extent in the Grand Prix and possibly in the World Championship. Thanks for the donation. Can something beat the 2008 season? Like I said, if Lewis and Max were to be wheel to wheel on the final lap of the race, the final lap of the season, the final lap of the championship, I think that would beat the Timo Glock moment. because it's literally the two contenders deciding at the absolute last moment who is world champion. Who would not want that? That's what dreams are made of, isn't it? I think that would probably go down as the greatest championship deciding moment if what I just described was to happen. I'll read out one final comment and then I'll get onto the midfield because, like I said, I need to keep this stream to, say, an hour at most. Mika says, Chaz, F1 blames Verstappen for being dirty. What would you do if you were in his position? Championship on the line. Your rival has a faster package. What do you do? In Verstappen's position, I mean, let's say I'm Max Verstappen. I get into the lead on the second restart. Hamilton's right behind me, pressuring me. You just need to try and, instead of trying tricks and stuff like that, believe in yourself, believe in your talent, and give it everything you got. Make sure you excel in certain areas, like on the traction zones out of the corners right before a straight. Make sure you get that absolutely bang on, and make sure that you don't, kill your tyres beforehand. Keep your tyres in nice nick so you can, get a good release off the final corner, for example. And like I said, just believe in your talent, believe in what you have, and if it's not enough in the end, then it's not enough. For example, I race. I have in the past raced in F1 leagues, and I have actually won a league championship F1 on F1 2018. Funnily enough, my championship rival that year was Niblo, and I got into one point. I think it was 3 races left where I was like 15 odd points ahead. I could have easily, when racing Nib, I just pushed him off the track and eliminated him that way, but I didn't, because I believed in myself, believed in my talent as a league racer, and I knew that if I just kept on doing what I was doing, it would come right in the end and I would be champion. I know obviously it's not comparable to real racing drivers, because they are, absolute gods compared to league racers, but you understand what I mean. Just do your job, do the best you can, and if it's not good enough, then it's not good enough and it wasn't meant to be. End of story. Anyway, let's now quickly get on to the rest of the field. So, let me just quickly get rid of this picture on the screen. Here we go. So, first off, McLaren. We'll start with Daniel Ricciardo. Very good start. The hard compound tyre working very, very well for Daniel Ricciardo. Got his way up to, 8th or 9th place. Then through the safety cars, or the first safety car, he was able to get up to P5 because Leclerc and Gasly and was it Gasly? No, it was Leclerc and Norris, I think, pitted. That allowed Ricciardo to get up to 5th place. And then, after the couple restarts, Ricciardo then was able to get past Bottas, get up to 4th place, and Ricciardo maintained 4th place for quite a while. Did drop back behind Valtteri Bottas, but to be fair, that was to be expected. If he beat Valtteri Bottas, that would have been probably a bit of a overperformance from Daniel Ricciardo there. But a top 5 finish rather. Great result for McLaren. It won't be enough though, because Ferrari still got 10 points, but still a good result for Daniel Ricciardo. He's not had many this season, but yeah, good to see him getting a good top 5 finish. Lando Norris, really unlucky because he pitted during the safety car. Then the red flags eliminated any advantage he could have had. And then was trying to battle his way through. Alonso, Vettel, Tsunoda, Latifi, Stroll. Ended up getting into P10, but he lost so much time following those cars that he could not compete with the rest of the top 10. But, 11 points for McLaren. They outscored Ferrari, but like I said, Ferrari ended up scoring 10 points, and they pretty much have now guaranteed they will be finishing third in the Constructors' Championship, so well done to them. And given the troubles they had, around the restarts and the, especially Charles Leclerc had when it came to that incident with Sergio Perez, which, by the way, there was no, investigation necessary for that because there was nothing Leclerc, Tsunoda, or Perez could do. 3 into that, that kink of turn 3. 3 cars were never going to get through there without, some contact. So nothing could be done. But yeah, good result for Ferrari. Their pace was strong once they, once the race finally got going again after the second restart. Ferrari were properly quick, but they were just way too far behind, Ocon and Ricciardo and people like that to be able to really get a properly good result out of the Grand Prix. But still, 7th and 8th is pretty good. Carlos Sainz drove well to come from 15th up to 8th. His pace was very, very strong and could have easily beaten Charles Leclerc in the end. I think if he had a better qualifying, then he probably would have. Yeah, good result for Ferrari. And as long as they have a decent final race, they'll get third. The Constructors officially. For Aston Martin, I feel a bit sorry for Aston Martin because they had a great start. They did benefit a lot from the safety car and the red flags. Sebastian Vettel found his way up in P8 at one point. Remember, this man started in P17. So this was a great race he was having. But Yuki Tsunoda decided, no, your good race will end because I decided so. Tsunoda tried to overtake around the outside. Couldn't get the move done. He locked up. And what Tsunoda should have done is go off the track. But he didn't. He stayed on the track, tried to still make it work. And then met Sebastian Vettel at the apex. Punted Vettel off. Thankfully not into the barriers. But Vettel had damage. And that's why he ended up retiring eventually from the race. Tsunoda ended up taking his front wing off. I really hope, by the way, that Tsunoda starts to learn. Because he can't keep doing that next season. Because he cost himself, a decent finish there because the AlphaTauri was, pretty quick this weekend and in the race today. So, like I said, just absolutely poor there. But yeah, I feel sorry for Aston Martin because of that. Stroll tried his best to hold on to P10, but Lando Norris and the McLaren just too quick. Aston Martin tried the best, but, it was never to be. At least they did have, a good fight there for a while. And yeah, for AlphaTauri, we'll start with Pierre Gasly. Good finish for him. 6th place, but because of Esteban Ocon getting 12 points in 4th place, Alpine are essentially guaranteed 5th in the Constructors, which is a shame for AlphaTauri, but AlphaTauri, they still had a decent season. And Pierre Gasly has been great, of course, this season. Finishing in P6. He couldn't really have done anything different, I think, in today's race. I can't think of anything he could have done any differently. Was a bit unfortunate in regards to Ocon and Ricciardo in terms of the, the safety cars and the red flags in, losing so much time to them. But really, like I said, Gasly, I don't think could have done any differently. But yeah, good finish for him. And like I said, for Tsunoda, he needs to learn because he can't keep doing this as a driver. Because if he does, then he will not survive much longer in that team. Trust me, he will not. May even be out of that team, at midway point next season if we see too much of this in the first half of next season. I'm hoping we won't. I think he definitely has the potential to not do this as regularly as he has done this season at times, but we need to see better driving standards from Yuki. Next up is Alpine. Esteban Ocon, very good race, great start. And yeah, stayed out when the safety car came out. The restarts, of course, they helped him massively. He was able to get up to 2nd place. Was eventually passed, of course, by Lewis Hamilton in the whole melee. And then, I thought did pretty well to hang on as long as he did in 3rd position. Valtteri Bottas, he would have probably expected Valtteri Bottas to beat him. It's a shame it happened the way it did, that he was beaten literally on the line for 3rd place, but Ocon can't kick himself too much because, he's already had a podium. It's not like he's still searching for that first podium. And Ocon, I thought, drove still very, very well. Fernando Alonso, not really sure what happened with him today, but he was just so slow. Fernando, no real pace. He had a good start and then just dropped back massively. Fernando just not getting really well equipped, I think, to this circuit. But Esteban did, had a great result, and good on him for basically securing Alpine as 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. And the final, one of the final teams we'll go on to is Alfa Romeo. Antonio Giovinazzi, great result by him, P9. He was actually up in P7 at one point. Was never going to hold on to it, though, because the 2 Ferraris were way too quick for him to keep them behind. But yeah, top 10 finish. They do gain another couple of points on Williams, but Williams, I think, will still finish in 8th in the Constructors, and Williams, I still think, deserve to finish 8th in the Constructors. Raikkonen, I have to say, was really the cause of his own downfall. Was trying to pass Sebastian Vettel for P11. He had a go at turn 1, went wide, and then tried again at turn 4, and really, I thought he was quite dumb, actually, trying to go right round the outside of that corner, which is that overtake is not possible. There's no way you can go right round the outside at turn 4. The space isn't there. So yeah, dumb move from Kimi Raikkonen, and that's why he ended up finishing last of the people that finished. But yeah, Alfa Romeo, good weekend, and probably the best weekend pace-wise we've seen overall from them of the season so far, from both drivers, not just one. And then, of course, Latifi finished 12th for Williams. Williams were okay, nothing special. And then, of course, both Haas cars retired from the Grand Prix. For those guys, those are those are the teams, and that is the race for this weekend's 2021 Saudi Arabia Grand Prix. Now, before I go, I'm just going to quickly read out the championship standings. Unfortunately, can't show them on screen, but I'll read them out. So, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, like I said, go into the final race exactly level on points. Cannot wait for that final race. Valtteri Bottas is 3rd. He will finish most likely in 3rd. Perez will finish probably in 4th in the championship. Leclerc is now to 5th in the championship, now 4 points ahead of Lando Norris. Norris only about, 4.5 or 5.5 points ahead of Carlos Sainz, who's in P7. Ricciardo in P8, Gasly in P9, Alonso P10. Ocon, though, closes the gap to his teammate in terms of bragging rights for who is going to finish higher in the championship in the drivers. And then in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes now lead by 28 points compared to Red Bull. So essentially, unless something big happens in Red Bull's favour in the final race, then Mercedes should be Constructors' Champions yet again. Red Bull 2nd, and Ferrari 38 points or 37.5 points maybe, or 38.5 points. I'm not quite sure exactly, but they are quite a bit ahead of McLaren now. Alpine are 5th. Alpine are 29 points ahead of AlphaTauri. Aston Martin 7th, and then Williams 8th. Alfa Romeo have closed the gap down to 10 points, but unless of a extraordinary Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which of course we would hope for, I don't think Alfa Romeo will finish any higher than 9th in the championship. Yeah, wow, what a Grand Prix we have had here in Saudi Arabia. And before I go, just going to get into the schedule of things going forward in terms of content. So, of course, during this midweek, there won't be any content. Saturday, though, the content for the final race will begin. So I will be live at, let me just check the actual timings of the sessions before I go making any announcements. Let me just check. Right, so I will be live for practice 3 on Saturday morning at 9:45 a.m. UK time. So make sure to be there for that. It'd be great to have you for the most just important race of the season, obviously, but one of the biggest races in terms of a showdown we've ever had in Formula 1. And then I'll be live again on Saturday at 12:30 p.m. UK time for the qualifying watch along for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Then again on Sunday, I will be live at 10 a.m. UK time to preview the race. Then at 12:30 p.m. UK time, I will be live, hopefully this time with Nib, for the final race of the season, the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix race watch along. And then the plan is, so the Grand Prix in Abu Dhabi should finish around, say, between 2:45 and 3 p.m. UK time. And then the aim for me is, say, 5 or 6 p.m. UK time, me and Nib to go live again and to do a season review stream. The season review stream, though, won't be... We're not going to cover absolutely everything because I'm going to do it in a certain way. The season review content, put it this way, is not going to just be that stream. It's going to be a lot more after that. What I'm hoping to do is we're going to go race by race and talk about what happened in the races rather than getting into, very deeply each team and each driver. We're going to get into each race, how exciting the races were, the moments of the races and all of that. Of course, we had, 22, 23 races this season, so there's plenty to go through. And then we'll, when it comes to getting into the respective teams and drivers, I have different plans myself for that. I will probably let Nib give his thoughts on the, different teams and drivers, but in regards to my own, in terms of my final thoughts, and you guys, I think you know most of my thoughts as to the teams and drivers already, but as to my final thoughts, I will not be giving that in that stream because I have plans to do something different after the final race. But that is the plan next weekend. 5 pieces of content, 5 live streams, and hopefully you guys will be there for that. It would be great to have you along for that piece or those pieces of content, and for, like I said, just a Grand Prix that is going to be just something else, hopefully. The showdown of showdowns for the World Championship. But guys, thank you for coming along to the content today. Of course, I wasn't live yesterday, so to be honest, I'm a bit surprised that so many of you came around for the stream today. But yeah, I'm so grateful as always for the, for the support, for the viewership and all of that. And of course, any donations and all of that. So yeah, thank you guys so much. Like I said, that's the schedule for content next weekend. Hopefully I'll see you guys all for that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Again, all of that content coming up next weekend. And also, hit the notifications bell. But also, I was going to say, in regards to the winter content, make sure to tune in to next weekend's content because I will be getting into that. Probably in the season review stream is when I will finally reveal what the plan is. And I think you guys will like it for sure. So yeah, make sure to stick around for that next weekend. Smash the like button, share this video on your channel every way you can. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server, link below in the description. Be great to have you in our growing community. But guys, until the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where these two will decide who the world champion is, either the first Dutch world champion or the first ever 8-time world champion. Until then, guys, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.